Okay.
Greetings, everyone who's in our waiting room. I got to turn Brittany's phone call off with me, but welcome to AgeSmart Let's Talk, folks who've already joined us in the waiting room. Our program will begin sharply at 6:30. Right now, we're just welcoming folks into the waiting room and working out technical kinks and difficulties as we're getting ready for our fun evening with you, talking about health, wellness, fitness, exercise, how to stay active, what sort of adjustments that we need to make in times like these, and some of the options that are available to us for not only just equipment to use to work out, but just ways to use our bodies and stay active. So we're really excited to talk about this subject with you. Our presenters will be yours truly, Patrick Curtis, Program Director and Wellness Director at the Anchorage Senior Activity Center, and our fitness manager and wonderful instructor and many other things, Brittany Mitchell. So the two of us will be presenting. We're hoping our good friend and longtime instructor at the Senior Center, Tim Chin, joins us as well. He teaches Tai Chi, among many other disciplines that we'll talk about this evening. So once again, thank you to everyone for joining us. Brittany's working on rejoining the meeting because we had to shuffle around due to some computer weirdness, but we're up and running and we're looking forward to this evening with you all. Once again, thanks for joining. We want to quickly just thank our sponsors and partners, AARP and OPAG, publishers of Alaska Senior Voice, along with us, the Alaska, oh, no, not Alaska, we are in Alaska, but the Anchorage Senior Activity Center is thrilled to welcome you tonight to spend the evening with us. Once again, hello to all the folks just joining us now and are waiting out of the waiting room and into the meeting or the event with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have our cameras on here in a moment. We're still just getting some things set up for ourselves. We'll ask that we keep cameras off for our participant guests this evening for a little while, but then we do hope that everyone will turn cameras on as we get towards the end. We do this to increase the bandwidth of our broadcast and try to keep a little bit of the digital integrity intact as best we can. Some of these are our learning lessons that we've learned along the way in this time. So once again, thanks for joining us for AgeSmart. We'll get started very shortly, right at 6:30. Thank you again for your patience, and we'll look forward to speaking with you shortly about exercise, fitness, how to stay active, and make it a lifelong pursuit, or continue it, as the case may be. As we know, many of you are very active, and sometimes more so than we are. Welcome, folks. It's 6:30 p.m. Time for AgeSmart Let's Talk. Welcome. My name is Patrick Curtis. Once again, I'm the Programs Director and the Wellness Director for the Anchorage Senior Activity Center. We're thrilled to be presenting for you tonight on the topic of health and wellness, fitness, exercise, and general activity for a lifetime. And we want to share with you some of our passions for fitness and exercise. And our hosts and presenters will be myself. My background is in fitness prior to being with the Senior Center, so I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But before we get started, our other presenter is Brittany Mitchell, our fitness manager at Anchorage Senior Activity Center, our wonderful instructor, and so many other things. We're going to let a few more folks in that just showed up in the waiting room. And so as we kick off, we want to thank our sponsors. We'd love to thank AARP for their generous sponsorship all along the way with AgeSmart Let's Talk. It originated with our ideas of just trying to get out there, and AARP came to us and got this going over 2 years ago now. So we're thrilled to continue this tradition, and we're going to be this year revisiting some of the topics that we visited before, just for the simple fact that some of them were very popular, some of them were very fun, and we really are looking forward to next month as well. So before we get into tonight, I just want to invite everybody to join us in February. We will have Sheila Shin, former director of Geriatrics and Gerontology Initiative at University of Alaska Anchorage. She will be presenting on intimacy as we age. This was a wonderful topic, caught us by surprise probably how much fun we had when she presented in 2018. So we're thrilled to welcome her back next month for AgeSmart Let's Talk. And once again, that's going to always be the second Tuesday of the month. Commencing at 6:30, but we open the event at 6, just in case we can help anybody with computer issues. Sometimes it's us that needs the help, but we help each other. So we got through that tonight. So again, and our other sponsor and partner as well is OPAG, publishers of Alaska Senior Voice. So thank you so much to our partners that join us for AgeSmart Let's Talk. And let's get started talking about fitness. Do I have you on with me, Brittany? Let's see.
I'm
Looks
here.
like. All right, there you are.
Hi.
Good to see you. So this is going to be a lot of fun because generally when we're doing presentations like this for you all and joining everybody for a talk, we're dressed usually in our business casual attire, depending. Now, I can't speak for Brittany. She's generally in front of the camera in clothes when you can move and groove in. And so as I mentioned that, I'm going to also just give everyone a heads up. We do invite you, if you have, and we'll talk about this, but if you have the right clothes on and the right shoes on in a little space, about halfway through our event tonight, we're going to do just a quick dance break and just get up and move. This will be a sample of one of those things that we know to be a great activity that contributes to our wellness and activity levels just as much as any kind of a specific exercise, and that's dance. So we have a lot of passion for that in addition. So I'm going to give you a quick overview. The reason we want to visit this topic as we head into a new year, it's quite a common knowledge that many of us will either make resolutions to rededicate ourselves to our exercise routines, or even make new ones to get back into a routine, etc. We understand that, and coming from the fitness industry, Brittany and I have the pleasure of having had quite a few years together as a team, not only at Anchorage Senior Activity Center, but previously at the Alaska clubs, and really just over the years throughout different opportunities to interact and engage with each other on fitness. So we really enjoy each other's company when we talk about fitness, and we also have very similar levels of passion and dedication to the subject, which makes it a lot of fun. Brittany, what do you think is the most important thing about exercise? What is this whole fitness craze, and why is it so important?
It's so important for so many different aspects of the body. So we think about being fit and being maybe chiseled or muscular or strong or slim, but really it's overall wellness. So we want to think of being happy and healthy versus what today's society might think that we should look like at any age. So making sure that we are working out to release good chemicals like endorphins to help us be happy and release natural chemicals within our body. So little things like that do add up, and any movement at all, like Patrick was saying, even a dance here and there throughout the day can really increase your level of activity and increase your mood as well. So that's one of my favorites.
Awesome, thank you. So again, as a bit of an overview, we want to present some ideas about the concepts behind and the scientific rationale that goes into exercise for the body, but we don't want to get too technical. We really want to keep it also about language and ideas and concepts that relate to our everyday lives. Because one of the most important things we've learned in this particular time has been to adapt. While the gym is an amazing place to work out, and any of you who've ever been a part of a gym, either at our senior center or any of the wonderful gyms and health clubs throughout our town and anywhere else really in the world, a gym is a great place to get help, to find a professional who can guide you, to find some of the latest and greatest equipment. There's just so many advantages to being a member of a health club or a gym, and it's one of the reasons we feel very lucky and blessed to have our own fitness center inside our center, and many other businesses have similar qualities to their workplace too, that creates an environment where people are encouraged to exercise. And we're thrilled to be supported by our employers to be encouraged to stay active and fit. So, talking about a gym, I mentioned some of the ideas on why I believe a gym is a great place. And it's really kind of the starting point for our overview, but we also really want to focus primarily tonight on other things beside the gym. And really, it should always be thought of in the exercise world, and when we're talking about activity and fitness, everything is contributive to everything else. And so doing things and getting good at coming up with ways to stay active outside the gym or inside the home is only going to complement any other routine or any other way that you choose to stay fit in the future. So it should always be thought of as creating variety, because one of the things this time of year as we're making resolutions is to avoid boredom. Many, many people will make a resolution and join a gym, and that's often a part of it. Even in this time, there's plenty of gyms that are still open and doing everything they can to keep their members safe and trying to make opportunities possible. Many, though, however, are doing very much like we are and engaging virtually. One of the great joys of this time and engaging virtually with our patrons and exercise participants is this one of the safer ways we can all be together without masks on. So we get to see our smiling faces. Another pleasure that comes out of hosting these virtual programs. Brittany, what are some of the top three things that you might think, or what are top three things that you might recommend or talk to people about a gym or joining a gym? What do you look for a quality health club or a gym?
So if I'm personally looking for a quality health club or a gym, my first instinct is going to look for something that I'm going to enjoy. If I'm going to a health club that maybe it's not something that you walk in, it doesn't spark joy for you, maybe the lights are overly dim, or maybe it's just something that you don't notice right offhand that speaks to you, maybe that's not the right gym for you, and that's okay. So you want to find things that spark joy for you and that will work for your body. Another thing would be looking for equipment that works for you. Not everybody can run on the treadmill or go up the stair mill as well. So you want to find things that you can adapt to, like Patrick was saying, adapt to your body and slowly work your way into, maybe that's a goal to be able to run on the treadmill again, or maybe be able to do 3 to 4 flights of stairs on the stair mill, but you also need to have that starting point of a recumbent bike or an arm cycle, depending on what you're going through with your body. Everybody's different and we have to start somewhere. So that's always, for me, one of my number ones is make sure that you're looking for something that's going to spark joy and be best for your body, so you get the most efficiency out of your workout when you're walking into the gym.
Absolutely. And so we'll talk a little more about equipment a little later on, because we want to talk about home equipment options and how they relate to gym equipment, et cetera, and just some general recommendations from the types of equipment, not necessarily brands that are our favorites. So we'll talk more about that. But one of the critical things that's important about gyms as well is that each of us has a fitness journey in a way. And Brittany was already alluding to things that work for us or things that appeal to us. And it is really important when it comes to exercise and activity to find things that you are interested in, that do actually appeal to your motivation personally. But one of the other incredibly important features is to have a social way to exercise as well. So many people will go to the gym and pursue their fitness journey alone. And for so many, that's their zone. They want to get into a zone and zone out from the world, and everything else is on hold while we're exercising. And then there's those of us who find our motivation through group exercise. And that's something that Brittany and I talk about often, because we're talking about that social level of support. We're talking about fun and trying to find ways to encourage our bodies to move in different ways as well. And group fitness is often one of the best ways to do that. So whether it's in a gym or whether it's virtual, joining a class, and especially when we have the option of turning our camera off so you can participate or not, there's a lot of advantages to the virtual world when it comes to exercise. Clearly, the disadvantage is that we're not in the same room, of course. So we can't necessarily physically be adjacent to each other, but we can say that in this time we've adapted to our teaching on virtual platforms at such a level where we're tuned into it. Our participants who've regularly attended classes are tuned into it, and it creates a very similar interaction and engagement opportunity, really, to like being in a studio. Our instructors and Brittany's equipment, as you can see, she's in her studio, so she has the ability to speak on microphone hands-free. She can offer chat support. This is the modern virtual fitness instructor on display. She has high quality resolution microphone. She has a good camera and a good space and good lighting. All of those are super, super important if you're looking to start teaching virtually, or you just want to look good on camera when you join that class with your friends. Once again, we learn these things as we go. I know I've enjoyed teaching virtually, and I've sure enjoyed watching our patrons at our classes and Brittany teaching her classes as well. But I've also observed that some folks do join classes sometimes, and they like to listen, and they'll join in a little at a time and sometimes sit back and take a rest, which is another tremendous advantage. And so that kind of steers us to the next topic that Brittany and I would like to talk about, and that's understanding fitness levels and starting points. Because once again, if you fall into that category of somebody making your New Year's resolution now to start exercising again, there's a few precautions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Brittany to talk about her aspect, and I'm just going to chime in here and there as we kind of talk back and forth. But Brittany, you know, as we're getting started, if I'm making a resolution and I haven't been active for the last, let's say 6 years, no, I'm sorry, let's say 6 months. I've personally been active more often than that in the last 6 months, but let's say about, you know, six months or so, and I'm just going to get started again.
So if you're just looking to get started again, and that is the hardest thing, I would personally think, is just getting that understanding of, okay, where do I start? You want to make a personal assessment. And that's fairly easy, is just grab a piece of paper, write down your pros, right? So, okay, my pros would be I'm still walking around the store safely with a mask on, hopefully. I am maybe still able to walk around the block, or maybe I can't walk around the block. That's okay. So you want to make this list. And I love the pros and cons list. It's always been one of my favorite things to do with any aspect of a career, physical fitness, even mental health. Making that pros and cons list to see, okay, maybe I have a really healthy knees, but the con would be maybe my shoulder hurts if I lift it overhead. So maybe I know doing lower body exercises to start would be something that I would want to do. But like Patrick said, maybe I haven't been exercising for 6 months. So where do I begin? Walking around your home is amazing. I have actually helped our members create exercises in little circuit or a trail around their home to set a goal. And if you make X amount of circles around your island, or you walk up and down the stairs 10 times, you get to reward yourself with something fun. And whether that's maybe a piece of chocolate or an ice cream cone, or maybe anything else you're ordering out to eat. I always think of food as a reward because I love to eat. So pardon me if you're hungry. So trying to make these little wins that you can do even within your home. Now let's say, okay, we're tired of being in home. What can we do that's maybe safe outside? Walking around even your backyard. You know that most likely your backyard's not going to be slippery. That's something that, yes, you're probably going to be trudging through snow, but you're less likely to slip and catch yourself and create something else down the road. I always believe starting out small is best. So if you know, okay, I told myself yesterday I was going to work out for 30 minutes today, and that just seems so daunting. That's okay. Try for 5 minutes. And at that 5 minutes, if you don't feel like pressing or pushing forward, then maybe it wasn't meant to be for the full routine today, and that's okay. But guess what? You're going to look at that the second day and said, I still did a little bit, and that was enough. And so then you can say, well, I did 5 minutes yesterday. Maybe I can do 5 minutes again today. And then maybe that's where you move on and move into, well, I'm feeling good at 5 minutes and I did that yesterday, so I'm going to push forward into 10, 15, or 20 minutes, etc. And you can slowly work yourself into exercise in a good manner that's going to be safe for your body. We always hear of people doing their New Year's resolutions, and then you hear that in February the gyms are slow or people stop their exercise, and that's what we don't want to happen to our members or into anybody that's in the community, because you want to maintain that small goal, and that small goal is what's going to get you. So start out a small goal, assess your body, and make sure you're doing something that you're going to enjoy. Of course, if I do wall push-ups every single day, maybe I don't enjoy push-ups at all, but I'm doing a wall push-up and I'm just like, man, I don't like this exercise. Why are we doing that exercise if we don't enjoy it? So make sure that you're incorporating any little bit that you like. Maybe you like just to march in place in front of your TV, standing or seated. You can do that as well. So just starting out small is so important, and it's going to, in the long run, keep you going for a lot longer with your goals or your routine and just staying active. Our active daily lifestyle is so important, and we need to make sure that we're keeping that up. A little movement here and there throughout the day adds up. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before lunch, even a few minutes before bed. That will add up to time accrued to your activity level throughout the week. Do you have anything to add there, Patrick?
Absolutely. That was great, Brittany. Brittany mentioned incremental increases, or just, increasing gradually, whether that means intensity, the frequency of workouts, etc. So I mentioned the science part, and that's where I always love to come in and talk science, but I want to try to give some layman's terms to some conceptual information right now that relates to fitness levels. Because as we self-assess, if we haven't had the experience with it, sometimes we need to have a little bit of a concrete understanding, or at least in terms of terminology, what we mean when we talk about different exercise or fitness levels for us and our bodies. So what I'm going to do is just give you some general overview once again. And so the overview is based on 3 levels. We'll talk about beginner. So beginner wouldn't necessarily be somebody brand new to exercise. A beginner would be somebody making that resolution now after 6 months, like I mentioned before. That would fall into the beginner category, because the theory here is that if you've been working out regularly, and I'll talk to you about what that means at different levels in a moment, but if you've been working out regularly for 6 to 8 weeks, you're generally considered conditioned. Now, you do have to meet some of the criteria that I'll talk about as far as minimum time, etc. But Brittany mentioned something a moment ago that's incredibly important for beginners and really anybody ever starting an exercise routine. And that's do what you can and add to it gradually. I can't overstate that, and neither can Brittany. It's really the way that it works, and that's how we strengthen our bodies a little at a time so we avoid injury. The worst thing in the world is to start now in January or continue a routine and get injured because we've done too much too fast and just pushed our bodies too hard. That sets us back for more time down. And we know in Alaska, we don't want to wait to be ready for the warmer weather. Now is the time. This is when we need to be preparing. So let's talk for a minute about the fitness levels. So I mentioned a beginner, obviously somebody who's deconditioned. That's another way to describe that. We use that as the scientific term in the fitness world of deconditioned to mean somebody who hasn't worked out regularly for 6 weeks. That's when we're going to start fairly light on the intensity levels, and we're going to work up, as Brittany said, a little at a time. So an example of activities that would fit for a beginner would be 2 days of strength training and up to 3 days of cardio, with the goal to add additional strength training for possibly a 3rd day or more, depending on your routine, and we'll cover a little bit about that. And also the cardio is up to 3 days, and so 3 days would be the minimum. And the reason I mention these numbers, 2 days for strength and 3 days for cardio, is because that's the scientific research and the rationale that's gone into the physiological response that the demands of exercise place on our bodies. And then the response of the body is to adapt by getting stronger, to be able to go for longer, and to gradually get better at the movements and the ability for the body itself just to adapt to even more intensity, more exercise, etc. So very, very gradual. Now, again, Brittany talked about adding a little at a time. The American College of Sports Medicine, and I'm going to type this website into
And Patrick, you muted yourself. There you go.
I know, I just realized I muted myself, but it's good because I didn't say a whole lot. I was just saying that the American College of Sports Medicine did some studies, and this is going back now 20, 25 years. And really what they were looking at are the original recommendations where we really for a long time preached about duration of exercise having to take place all at once. And Brittany talked about accruing or accumulating or cumulative exercise. And that's what we mean by gradually adding a little. So say, for instance, somebody who could do maybe only 5 or 10 minutes of moderate cardio, walking, for instance, or brisk walking, add a little to that by adding a few minutes each bout of exercise. But Brittany mentioned breaking it up throughout the day. And this study that I mentioned with the American College of Sports Medicine looked at exactly that. We know the minimum duration for an effective strength workout is about 25 minutes. An extension of 25 minutes of time where we're placing the demand on our large global muscles and all the small helping muscles that help us to do a lot of the basic exercises most of us are somewhat familiar with. Now, going back to that idea on the body, so with the, hi Julie. My train of thought keeps flying off, but ACSM talked about accumulating these levels of exercise and making it equal about the same time of the minimum. So I said 25 for strength and about 20 to 30 for cardio is the goal, generally speaking. However, this study showed that the same demand can be placed on the body by accumulating that amount of time in a day's total. And the whole meaning behind that is that everything we do within a 24-hour time period contributes to that 24-hour time period. Now that may sound very simple, but we can even think of it in terms of diet. There were a lot of recommendations about eating meals earlier and not later in the evening. And this very same study that I referenced by ACSM also found that calories consumed are calories consumed and calories burned are calories burned. Now, we know we don't get in our car and go off on a long journey with an empty gas tank. So there is more at work there when it comes to nutrition and having the right balanced nutrition on board for energy, etc. And also recovery. But so we're going back to those concepts of time. So by accumulating throughout the day, many of us who work in an office, we worked with AARP on a fitness challenge last year that was a lot of fun. I got the privilege of working with Teresa Holt, the Alaska director of AARP, and we came up with a fitness challenge where we were trying to find ways to help the folks that were our colleagues and our coworkers and our suite mates and building mates to find ways to be active and exercise throughout the day so that when we're sitting at our desk for an 8-hour or more a day, we're actually finding little moments to get up and be active. Now, Brittany, she is the police when it comes to this in meetings. When we're in meetings as a group or a team, she won't let us go very long without taking a moment to stand up and move around. And we're going to do just that here in a few moments. We're going to take a quick dance break and get up and boogie. Dance as long as you like. You can keep dancing for the rest of the time we're talking if you want. But we're going to do just a quick 30-second dance break at 7 at the top of the hour just to give you a heads up. And that's why we're dressed in our dance clothes. So we'll look forward to that. So now getting back to the exercise, the fitness levels and exercise and what that means. So I mentioned the minimums and building from there. That's the beginner. Now the intermediate is somebody that's going to be a little more capable of having more bouts of exercise throughout the week and probably slightly longer bouts of exercise at higher levels of intensity. And what that means as far as those layman's terms about the terminology with the week, so that would be probably closer to 4 days of cardio per week and 3 days of strength training. So 3 days of strength training and 4 days, and I say days, not for the whole day. Once again, 25 minutes for strength is the minimum. 20 to 30 is the cardio target minimum. Now, cardio can be done longer, and often it's the habit of intermediate and advanced exercisers to increase the length of the cardio on the days between strength. One of the concepts about strength training, muscle training, if you will, or resistance training is the other name for it. That's pushing weights or opposing gravity with the forces of our bodies. There's recovery and demand that occurs there, and you do not want to work the same muscles in isolation to a high level of fatigue 2 days in a row. And that really doesn't matter what type of workout you're doing with strength. If that's total body, then that's really the rule, is 2 to 3 days maximum, skipping a day between. If you're doing a split routine where you're dividing the body up and doing portions of the body at a time, which could be split into 6 days, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, the general consensus across the fitness and exercise world is that no one should work out at high intensity 7 days a week. Everybody should have rest and recovery time. But as your exercise level or your fitness level increases and your endurance, both with breathing and cardiovascular and cardiorespiratory endurance increases, and you can go longer, increase gradually as you go. And by ensuring that you're doing that gradually, you're going to ensure you're not, or at least help prevent any injuries, so that you can continue to not only enjoy the exercise, but continue from there to find new and excellent opportunities. And that's where we're going to branch now into some other opportunities. Now, to get active, an advanced exerciser, somebody that can really scale up and scale back without a lot of recovery time, oftentimes capable of doing high intensity workouts. An advanced exerciser is probably somebody you might think about in terms of high intensity interval training, combining strength exercises with cardio, although we do that at very low fitness levels too for balance, stability, and coordination, which we'll talk about here in a moment with Brittany. So that's an advanced exerciser, likely has a higher frequency, probably 4 to 5 or 6 days of cardio workouts per week, or bouts of cardio per week, and 3 to up to 6 days of strength training. Now, those could also be athletes in that category who are training at a very high level for sports, athletics, and things of that nature. Generally, what we're speaking to is more probably along the guidelines of the older adult. I'm approaching that older adult status. In fact, I'll be able to have my senior membership at the center here soon in a couple more years. Not to give that away, but as we're talking about older adults, we really need the sorts of exercise and demands on our body that are going to help us replicate what it is we do in our normal lives. And that's why we want to think about things like Brittany was mentioning, falls prevention earlier. Balance, coordination, and stability are really critical to us as we age. And there's many ways to contribute to keeping and developing those skills as we utilize other methods of exercise. So we're almost at our top of the hour dance break. Before we head there, Brittany, talk about balance and stability and how you work it in. I mean, in a lot of your classes, matter of fact, every class I've ever taken with you, not only at the center, but anywhere else, that component is built in. It's sometimes hidden in and amongst the activity. But tell me about stability and balance, and why is that critical?
So stability and balance is so important for a handful of reasons. Most of us contribute it to not falling. That's a bad word. I don't even like to say it. But most of us contribute it to falling. So we think about balance and stability, but really it can help our overall confidence level. And whether that's, again, just walking around outside, that can help us. Walking through a grocery store, hopefully that can help us with our confidence and not slipping. So it's also going to increase our independence. So when we can maintain our balance and our mobility as we are starting to have each birthday pass, we're going to make sure that we're keeping our independence as well. So if the more I have to depend on a walking aid or something in my home that is going to maybe increase safety, yes. But if I'm not exercising and I'm using constantly something like a handle to push out of my chair, then I'm actively teaching myself to utilize something for my independence. Over time, that can turn out to be maybe into a cane or a walker, which sometimes those are 100% needed depending on what our doctors are telling us. So those are still really good. And we're not trying to tell us that that's not a bad thing, but we want to make sure that we are maintaining our active independence as we are moving forward. So our balance mobility, there's going to come from a few different areas in the body, and a few that I'll address. Our feet are our foundation. We should constantly be working at our feet. Some very simple, easy ones: toe taps, heel raises. And once we do our dance break, watch me, and I'll do a few of those that you can do. And it doesn't have to be dancing. You can just do some tapping your feet to the song. Our core or trunk strengths. We often think of our core as our abdominals, but our whole trunk here, that's going to wrap around through our core. That's going to come in aid in a lot of balance. Our obliques aid in our lateral balance. So if we step out of the way on a path to get out of someone's way, if they're running or maybe a moose is charging us, we can make sure that if we step over, we're not likely to go over. Also, you're going to want to think of your inner ear. There's a lot of receptors in there that keep us up on our feet, and our eyes, visually making sure that we are taking that time to disconnect every once in a while. I'm so thankful for the internet and our technology that we have had in the last almost year. However, more time that we spend on the screen, the less time that we have to actively engage the muscles and the neuroplasticity around the eyes. So things like driving or walking through a field and looking around without moving your head can really help to engage those eyes and also help with our balance, because we often want to look where our head or our eyes are with our head, and that's going to prohibit our balance. So maybe just look with those eyes. So those are some of my favorite things to touch base on. There's so many fun things that you can do to engage your balance and mobility. And again, just staying independent and active with those are going to keep you healthy and happy for a long time.
And it's dance break time. Speaking of moving around, get up and move with us for a moment, folks. Stand up, stretch your legs. We've been talking for a while to you. Let's move. The music will commence momentarily. While we're waiting for the music to cue, I'll continue to speak with you for just a moment. So make sure you've got good footwear on and some space to move around, because the last thing we want is to talk about falls prevention and then have somebody fall while we're dancing. So that's not allowed. Well, while we're waiting for the music, I'll talk a little about core as well. Brittany was talking about core, and when we're talking about our abdominals, there's a lot of musculature that goes into the core. The core apparatus in the body is made up of our abdominals, our transversus abdominis, our rectus abdominis, that's the upper abdominal region, lower abdominal region that Brittany was referencing in the lower trunk. We have our hip adductors and abductors. That's the inner outer thigh muscles that we talk about when we have the exercises that go like this with our legs. Those are very important to lateral stability. And then I'll show, once we're up and dancing here in a moment, I'll show a couple of quick examples of just lunges and squats, which are very functional activities that don't require extra weight, though there's much equipment out there that actually does mirror those motions, leg press being an example. So talking about core, when I was first getting certified as a personal trainer many, many years ago, and just kind of embarking on that career of working with individuals, groups, and couples and pairs on how to get fit and progress, I got certified in a methodology that was talking about a certain progression of exercise. And those ideas and concepts really stuck with me. And I've tried to employ them as we've gone on to other classes and other ways of instructing and teaching even to date. And that's kind of an idea of using the body in a certain order so you get the most out of it. And so by starting with core exercises, we're warming up the core. By doing core exercises like sit-ups, crunches, just twisting exercises, gentle twists, even some of the basic stretches we do to warm up, and just some basic body movements really cue the core. And I keep saying that term cue, and that's just another term for activate. Once we kind of cue and activate the core, we're setting ourselves up for greater stability as we move into other movements. Balance typically comes next in the order of activity. So you cue the core, and then we work on balance, because you want to maintain the most strength and stability for the balance exercises at the beginning of a workout. You wouldn't try to force your way into doing balance exercises at the end of a workout when you've accumulated all that fatigue. If there's music, I can't hear it. And I could be wrong.
I can get a song playing right now. You guys ready to move a little bit? Here we go.
Da-dum, da-dum.
So remember, you can always turn up the volume on your side. You can also turn it down. It's up to you. And you can move in your seat side to side. That's going to activate that core and cue it, as Patrick was saying. Or again, anything. Maybe you want to add in a light twist. You can always twist. And again, maybe you're seated. Maybe you just want to march in place. Any movement is good movement. We say dance break, but it can be whatever feels good for your body. Maybe you just want to take the hand side to side. Maybe you want to do those toe taps like I was telling you about earlier. I also have to make sure that we're giving a shout out to all those people that are on Facebook and participating through Facebook as well. Maybe you just want to do our side to side movement. The key here when we say dance is just getting that heart rate moving, the blood flowing.
Hopefully it looks like I'm dancing.
I just keep thinking, who's going to see us on Facebook? Maybe you want to do the Charleston. Maybe that was one of your favorite dances. It's one of mine. I love the Charleston because it challenges your brain. If you need to for extra balance, utilize that chair nearby. Maybe a wall. I think everybody deserves a round of applause with that one.
And thank you to anybody that joined us there. I was looking for some cameras. I forgot to tell everybody to turn the cameras on, but that's quite okay. It's better to watch us make ourselves look silly. Lots of fun. We always love that. And if I was talking over the music, I apologize. That we're both hosts on this. Oh, it wasn't happening? Okay. That's good to know. Because I discovered when I unmute, the music stopped on my end. So I was confused too, whether it was still going. Well, thanks for taking a little break. And we did that just, primarily, we're sitting together and talking for a bit this evening, and getting up and moving after sitting for a while is a great idea. But it's also illustrative of ways that we can take breaks throughout our day. Like we were talking about before, an accumulating activity, trying to go for a good 20 or 30 minute minimum on most days per week is a wonderful goal for all of us, regardless of our fitness level. So really sort of shooting for that time frame. Now, we talked about equipment, and we talked about being in the gym. And then we talked about the adaptations we've had to make to be in our homes when we haven't been able to be in the gym. Several times throughout this past year, gyms have had to close at certain periods of time. And, really everybody in the fitness community got very creative. There was a lot of generosity and sharing of ideas, resources. A lot of our colleagues at the Alaska clubs reached out to us and vice versa. We were talking to other senior centers. There's just so much happening and being shared as well, that there's just a plethora of resources out there and experience to draw from. And so we've obviously done everything we can to present some quality instruction, but we've also really learned a lot too from watching others and just seeing how quickly the fitness world pivoted to this whole reality of being virtual. So even in an event like this, it gives us this opportunity still to be able to engage with a group of you and really be able to speak to some of the things that are important to us about staying active. Now, we're going to talk about equipment here in just a minute, but the activity level for a lifetime, we've mentioned a few times. I know I throw that term out there a lot, and I know Brittany talks about lifestyle and activity being one and the same. And really, that really is the idea. Many of us know that exercise is always important. I think most of us know that. I always joke around that most of us know we're supposed to eat right, we're supposed to exercise, and we're supposed to get a good night's sleep. But that isn't always the reality in our busy world. And so often we're trying to fit things in. And so a lot of what we're talking about this evening and sharing with you are these concepts that sort of break down the idea that you've got to go spend hours in a gym to be active. That's absolutely not the case. A little here, a little there. We talk about, Brittany's mentioned mental, because really the mental aspect of our well-being is contributed to tremendously by exercise and activity. And we know this, to be proven true through a lot of studies. Our mental acuity improves with activity and exercise. Our ability to focus, or even our ability to think critically and to multitask, is enhanced by exercise. Exercise can be a way to de-stress the body and to remove a lot of the accumulative effects of what our busy worlds actually present to us. And so we've talked about finding fun. We've talked about, finding equivalent activities. I put in the chat there, acsm.org is the website I mentioned earlier, because there is a chart, and you have to do a little digging, but there's a chart of home activities or homebound activities that have exercise equivalent. In other words, 20 minutes of vigorous vacuuming, which always makes me laugh because I try to picture what vigorous vacuuming looks like. But for instance, that's considered good activity. Now, one quick caution when we're looking at doing activities that can be an equivalent of exercise, not specific exercise, and that's to be very careful to balance things out. If we're using house chores as our equivalent exercise, don't just get stuck doing something only on one side. When I watch people vacuum, they tend to do it with one arm and not switch. And so when Brittany and I are talking about the body, we're always talking not just balance and not falling down, but balancing out the demands on the body across the body as evenly as we possibly can. There was a hilarious advertisement, and I believe it was for contact lenses a while back, and it had a young lady who'd picked up inadvertently the wrong size dumbbell for one arm, and she had a small one in the other arm. And so her one arm was enormous because she was working out with that giant dumbbell. You know, some people do think that's the idea when you have an injury to favor one side. But just a real quick aside on that front, because I know Brittany and I can speak to this from experience, not only personally, but with participants in our classes. When and if you have an injury, don't keep working out the other side at the higher level and the side that might be injured. For instance, on a shoulder. I've had a few shoulder injuries and I've had to dial it back and balance and build them back up together, because what happens is that muscle relationship, it's going to do something different in the body. And so we've talked about adaptation. When we do exercise and get stronger and can go longer, that's an adaptation. Our body adapts wonderfully to so many different things and demands. But the one other thing that our body can adapt to, if we let it, is compensations. And now compensations are when one part or one side of the body kind of takes over. I think most of us are probably familiar with this concept if we've had an injury before. You get the concept of atrophy, where a muscle that's not working properly gets weaker and you have to build it back up. And so the formula is not to go light on one side and heavy on the other side. It's more to work with somebody or just get a good advice and idea from your physical therapist on how to work back up gradually on both sides evenly. So just a quick little aside on that part. So I'm going to steer over to equipment considerations and home exercise. And, you know, we were talking about virtual instruction and teaching classes, and much like we're engaging tonight, we talk about the importance of some of these concepts with the body, but also just having the appropriate space. You know, that's something that we also did very quickly in the fitness industry. Any and all of us who are instructors and enjoy teaching, we knew we had to figure out a way to teach from home very quickly. Now, some of us got together beautiful studios like Brittany. I have tape on my floor in various foot patterns, and I've cleared out a space on our wooden floor where I've got enough of room to move around and teach a class as well. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But just a few tips there. You know, quickly again, revisiting that whole falls prevention. The home is not your same predictable workout environment as you might be used to if you do go to a gym. And so remembering that coffee table's right behind you, or that your dog is actually running around in circles while you've got your eyes on the screen around your feet, or that chair that you didn't push far enough out of the way. You know, I'm going to let Brittany talk here for a minute too, because she's got some great ideas about this. And it's just really critical to make sure your space has enough movement space. So Brittany, talk a little more about that.
So the thing is, when you're working out at home, you don't need a huge space to work in. This room looks fairly big. That's because of the mirrors. Plays a trick on you, but it's really not super big. So I get to, when I'm teaching a class, I work out in this general space here. As long as you can do a small 2-step side to side, that's really all the space you need. You can do a knee forward or even a kick or tap forward. Again, that's really all the amount of space you need. I always want to caution people as well. If you're working out on an area rug, you want to maybe roll that up, push it aside. Being safe is your ultimate goal when working out. Yes, we have other goals. Maybe it's to work out to sleep better, work out to gain better bladder control, work out to have better balance. These are some goals that might come to mind, but also that ultimate goal is to stay safe and not injure yourself in the process. So many things that we can do at home is find a sturdy chair. If we know that maybe we need to work on our balance, but we're not getting enough through those toe taps or ankle circles because we've done those for a month, then maybe the next step is to grab that chair. And you can also use a stick, a broom handle, anything that you have close by. Be creative, anything that you know that you can hang on to, a countertop, a wall, anything that you can grasp onto, and know that you can practice your balance here or here. Or maybe you're not used to standing and doing a lot of movement. That chair can then come in front of you, and then you can do some different movements behind you, laterally, and even just a little bit to the front. Be cautious to watch those knees. But it's very important, as a lot of our members can contest, pets do get in the way. My poor pets have actually been kicked on accident or gotten in my way. So it can be a little scary. If you can, put them behind a door or, oh, exactly, yes. And Donna mentions you can use your pets as a weight. If you're your small dog or a cat, maybe not a fish, but if they want to get involved and be in your space, grab a hold of them and maybe dance with them a little bit or do a squat or two with them. And that's a little bit of extra weight and loving attention that can be going towards your pet. But maybe if you can't pick up your dog, or maybe your cat's a cat that's 20 pounds, maybe go into a different room, shut the door, or maybe put them aside for that 5-10 minutes that you are going to be able to work out. Very important that we are watching those pets. Make it a point to not step over things constantly as well. That's very important. We've all heard the baby gate story where we can make that first foot over, but then that other toe will catch a hold of catch a hold of um, the baby gate. So try not to step over your pets. If they're laying in the middle of the floor, scooch them aside. Try not to step over them. If the door rings or you've got a mailman at the door, the pets get up, run, they're likely to trip you. So be very cautious, be very safe. There's things that you can also do a body scan before you start your exercise for that day. How did I sleep last night? Does anything hurt? On a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel? Happiness, pain, sadness, all these things you want to address prior to starting your exercise. It's very important to check in. Don't automatically think that, yes, I'm working out and I'm going to start running in my living room. Do that body scan. It's going to let you know, okay, today I do want to exercise, but I'm going to bring it down a little bit because I maybe didn't sleep very well last night. Maybe the windstorm was happening, or we just had New Year's, so maybe there was a lot of fireworks going off. So maybe these are things that you should address. It's very important. Some other serious notes: make sure you're paying attention to any signs of your body. If your arm is tingling or having pain, sit down, take a second, check your pulse. If your back hurts, sit down, take it easy. We always constantly reference the rest, ice, compression, and elevate. If you can elevate a foot or a limb, try to do so. Maybe every time you exercise, it's causing a headache. These are the roots of problems that we should be talking to our doctors or physicians about, and making sure that it is okay to exercise. So if you know, okay, I maybe have this thing going on in my body, I'm not sure if I should work out, maybe definitely talk to your doctor. And barefoot, I see some people coming through. Oh yes, definitely, Madeline. Flip-flops. Please don't work out in flip-flops. Don't go on long walks in flip-flops. Those things can be very dangerous. I'm constantly
sporting injuries from working out in flip-flops
indoor
myself.
shoes. I'm sorry, Patrick?
I said I'm sporting injuries from working out in flip-flops myself, Madeline.
That he is. But your floors are going to be different and catering to you. So I have this, I'm not sure what kind of floor this is. Maybe it's cork. But so I decide to wear shoes in this area, but maybe you're working on a carpeted area, maybe just a pair of socks, as long as they're not slippery, would be fine. You can also invest in those socks that have the little squishies on the bottom as well if you are working on the floor. It's good to work out barefooted as long as it's not high impact. That's going to challenge your proprioceptors in your feet quite a bit, so that's not a bad thing. I prefer shoes because it's easier for me when I am long-term working out as an instructor to make sure that I'm keeping my body safe. I always tell everybody, side note, the most expensive thing on your body should be your shoes. So invest in a good pair of shoes if you are going to start a workout regimen, or if you don't know if you're going to keep up with it, invest down the road 2-3 months in and say, okay, now's the time that I'm going to buy a good pair of shoes. So go somewhere where you can get fitted for a good pair of shoes. Talk to a podiatrist if you need to for recommendations as well. Oh, Patrick, you're muted.
That's a good pivot point, Brittany, to go to equipment. and talk a little bit about equipment. Now, we mentioned some of the things in the gym, but what I want to do is give an overview that relates both the equipment that's in the gym. Every single piece of equipment in the gym has a home version. It doesn't matter the make or the model. There is not a single fitness manufacturer. Coming from personally from a previous fitness equipment salesperson and manager of a sales team, there is not a manufacturer in this world that doesn't make it available both commercially and residentially, regardless of the brand, make, and generally the models as well. And there's a reason for that. They are for profit. So they want to get you both at home and at the gym. And you know, it's always a joke when we talk about home equipment, although that has not been a joke this last year. I think this has been the year we've erased the joke of the extra hanger, hanging your clothes on your treadmill or your elliptical or your home cycle or what have you. I think a lot of people took all that clothes off and really got busy using that equipment. So we'll kind of go to that idea. So I'm going to talk about equipment and sort of stage it up the same way we talked about fitness levels. We'll start with beginner. So beginners, generally walking is the best exercise. Walking is one of the most underrated exercises on the planet for us humans. It is actually considered a total body exercise because it does employ every system in the body. Walking incorporates not only the skeletal and the muscular system, the nervous system, but all those other little things that Brittany was talking about too. You have to work on your vision and what you're looking at, your eyes, just really total movement, but it's lower impact. It still has impact, and it actually can be considered moderate impact, but walking can be also scaled up and back, just as Brittany was referring to before, talking about modifying something for comfort, which should be done at any time, at all times for you when you're feeling like you don't quite have enough, or, hey, I feel great today, I can add another 5 minutes. That goes both ways. That's that conversation you should always be having with your body. Brittany's referring to that as that scanning the body. How do I feel today? There should always be dialogue between yourself and your body and how you're feeling each and every time you do any type of exercise and any vigorous activity. How am I feeling? Just keep monitoring that. So, you know, when we're talking to beginners about getting equipment, whether they're purchasing for the home, if I were still in equipment sales, or just talking about what to pick out at the gym, we're looking for non-impact. You're looking for the lowest possible impact. Now, first and foremost, the best possible activity for non-impact would be aquatics. And that could be anything from swimming laps for exercise to participating in the classes like I teach, water aerobics, though we don't quite call it that anymore. We call it H2O cardio and H2O strength. So, you know, we have classes that we take folks over to the YMCA, one of our other nonprofit partners, where we have aqua classes during normal circumstances. I preach about the water all the time. It's a great place to not only complement the level of your workout if you're an advanced exerciser, but supplement as an intermediate and create stability and balance around you in the water as a beginner. It's one of the best places to protect yourself from exercise as you build up your endurance. So now moving on to dry land. As we get onto dry land, the equipment that's going to be our lowest impact are going to be cycles, first and foremost. And Brittany mentioned the recumbent cycle, which has a tremendous advantage. Now, the recumbent cycle is when you're sitting in a seat and you're leaning ever so slightly back and you're pushing your legs forward this way. And if you just even look at my arms as the example, by aligning the hips, the knees, and the ankles, as Brittany's going to demonstrate wonderfully for us right now, in that position that Brittany's in, and that's the perfect position for a recumbent bike, her back is straight. She's not leaning over the handlebars. She's maintaining a better alignment of her spine, and she's creating much, much lower impact on the lower body by keeping the gluteals or the hip muscles and the quadriceps, hamstrings, leg muscles, calf, everything working together in conjunction. That's a horizontal pattern of movement that is going to create the greatest strength. She was doing that with no pedals, folks. So a recumbent cycle is going to be one of the absolute best choices. Now, the one thing I can caution about a recumbent cycle for a long-term piece of equipment, if it were for home purchase, is that if you're really intent on getting your exercise and fitness level up pretty high to at least an intermediate advanced level, you're going to find it difficult to get your heart rate up on a recumbent cycle after some time. And so a little consideration should be given there. But if you have knee injuries that you've recovered from, or just issues with any joints in the lower extremities, the recumbent bike is going to be the best choice. Right behind that, I would put a rower, a horizontal rowing machine. Now, they make different types of rowing machines these days where you can actually be vertical and actually pull down and be upright and pull up. But the traditional rowing machine is the rowing position, and I'll demonstrate this time. So we're just rowing like this. But once again, our legs are horizontal, like Brittany was showing on the recumbent cycle. So again, that's going to position the body in such a way where it'll support the back better, create greater alignment, and then also give you an upper body aerobic capacity workout as well, which is difficult. That sort of takes us to the next level of non-impact equipment, which would typically be our elliptical machines. That's going to be the ellipsis or the ellipticals that kind of repeat a pattern like this that's more gentle than just pounding on the ground like you would on a treadmill. A treadmill is actually considered fairly high impact. Even walking gradually creates impact as your foot falls on that treadmill. And anytime that we're placing our foot on a hard surface, even a cushioned surface, there's what we call a ground reaction force. That's the force that comes back up through the foot as the foot falls on a harder surface. And that's where we get what we talk about when we're talking about impact. So non-impact would be those elliptical machines. There's some older equipment that's still available out there, and some of you may remember these. Now, there was the cross-country ski, the Nordic Track cross-country ski machine, which was also considered lower to low impact to non-impact, and the Vasa swimmer. Now, I've only seen one of these in the last probably 15 years, but the Vasa swimmer was developed to train swimmers who couldn't work out in the pool and had to work out on dry land, or maybe were working out at home. And it's just a slide that goes back and forth. Now, these days, the total gym is a piece of strength equipment. I'll let Brittany talk about the strength. I'm just going to go over the cardio. But I mentioned the total gym because it replaces that Vasa swimmer and actually allows you to do the same things on it. So that's a little lead in case that's a familiar piece of equipment to some of you. And as we go up gradually in impact, as our fitness level increases or what we're looking for out of our workout as far as intensity goes, either number of calories burned or just the overall demand on the body that's going to make it the absolute hardest thing to do. We look in the gyms at equipment and we look at the step mills as the highest impact. Now, the step mill is actually the flight of stairs that revolves just like a treadmill. That's going to be just about your highest impact. And the reason that that has the greatest impact on the body is that each time you're on one foot, 60 to 80% of your body weight's going through that foot. So as you're going up, you're putting not only elevation into the mixture, but resistance with those step mills. So those are probably the most advanced, and they're also the largest piece of equipment typically. And although they do make home use step mills, they're much smaller. So a home use step mill is typically scaled down and has a much smaller size and frame. Now, we're just coming up at the end of our time, I realize as I'm watching the clock tick here. So I want to let Brittany talk really quickly on strength, and then we'll take some questions. In the meantime, I'm going to launch our poll here that just is going to ask a few survey questions, and we'd sure invite you to participate in that for us, and we appreciate that if you do. So, I talked about those things. Now, talk about some of the strength equipment, Brittany, that would really make a good home environment while I launch the poll here.
Most definitely. Patrick, you touched base on a total gym, and I do have one of those. I'm not going to pull it out right now. But if you think of a cable machine that would be in a gym, so anything that you can pull handles, that's similar to what a total gym is. Everybody knows maybe back from when Chuck Norris was working out and you could see him on those commercials working out, and he was constantly advertising the total gym. And it is a total body workout. You will be getting a ton of core, a ton of upper body, and there's many different levels of purchasing you can do. And there are off brands as well. So not to just reference a total gym, but they're really awesome and they're beneficial in all different parts of your body. Some basic equipment, as far as strength goes, hand weights. You want to at least have 2 to 3 sets of hand weights at home. If you don't have the means for that right now, and like most of our members that have reached out to the senior center and myself, it has been challenging to find some of those things within town. Utilizing things such as a soup can. You can even get the same size filled water bottles and use those as your weights. Even body weighted exercises. So not necessarily equipment, but our body is a machine in hindsight here, but we can also utilize our body for weight training and things of that nature. You want to make sure that if you are choosing some weights that are going to work for your body, choose a really light weight. medium, and heavy. Heavy not being a 50-pound dumbbell, but maybe something between 12 and 15 pounds would be adequate. I wouldn't go much higher than that for home use. There's also things like resistance bands. Those you can get on Amazon fairly easy, and they make different types. They make some resistance bands with handles. Most of us have had a resistance band from physical therapy. That's just a tubing or a flat band that we can utilize to work out with at home as well. These are really great to store away and keep in a cabinet or travel with if whenever we do start to travel again. And they make looped bands, ones that you can put your arms through and do exercises like a back fly, or utilize around the legs or the ankles to do walking movements for your hips and trunk area. So there's quite a bit of equipment that you can get. There's some gimmicky things out there. We always try to stay away from those in the fitness industry unless they've been around for a couple of years. But as far as strength training, anything that you know you're going to use, or any type of workout, if you know you're going to use it, purchase it. The investment on yourself is so important. And we're not advertising that you go out and buy yourself a whole personal gym. That's not what we're here to do. Any movement is good movement. Start with your basic body weight movements, your basic cardio or endurance for your heart. That's a great place to start. If and when you're ready to move up, then go ahead and get a pair of dumbbells. Maybe look into different pieces of equipment. There's little bicycles that you can get that are just for your feet that can sit in front of a chair and you can use to cycle as well. So tons of equipment out there. Choose what works best for your body. And again, you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on something for it to be effective and work for your body. Well, go ahead. If you have any questions, go ahead and go in the chat. I do also want to mention that be careful with those weights, because if you do leave them in the middle of the floor, they are a really great tripping hazard. I find that out when I'm teaching classes quite frequently. So be cautious. Don't trip over your hand weights. Make sure there's a designated area to put your equipment so you're not tripping over it as well.
Well, I've got my mic open and my camera will come back on here in just a moment there, Brittany. But thank you to all of you who've answered the poll and continue to answer the poll there. We appreciate that. Those do help us to sort of rate ourselves and get a little feedback from our participants. So we appreciate that very much. I want to thank my colleague, my partner, my coworker, Brittany Mitchell, our fitness manager at Anchorage Senior Activity Center, for joining me tonight in this presentation. We've tried to share some of the things that we've picked up along the way, not just as instructors, but also as exercisers ourselves, and share a little bit of expertise. Now, we'll stick around for a few minutes and keep the meeting open, just to answer any questions in the chat there in case you have some. But I do want to sign off now on the general meeting and just let folks go. And I invite anybody who'd like to turn their cameras on, you're certainly welcome to. It's great to see everybody's face. So if you want to turn your cameras on for a moment just to give a quick wave, we appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll sure look forward to having you for AgeSmart Let's Talk next month as well in February. So go ahead and type some questions in the chat if you have them, and Brittany and I will hang out a little bit and talk on those topics. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Hi, Madeline.
Hi, everyone.
I know, I love seeing everybody's faces. It makes me so happy.
There we
go.
I
want to give that shout out to everybody that did join on Facebook. We really appreciate you guys joining in from multiple platforms as well.
Boy, some of you have professional lighting. How fabulous. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll now and just take a peek and see if there's anything there in the chat. Hey, there's David. Hi, David.
And if you have personal questions on exercises, let us know as well. We love answering those types of questions.
Well, I don't see too much coming in, so we'll keep chatting to you for a second. And thank you again for all of you who joined us. Really appreciate it. I'm just seeing that the poll, I'm going to end that poll now, 100% voted of those that were still stuck around. Thought we did a pretty decent job. We certainly appreciate that. Go ahead and end that. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. So thrilled to have you. We'll look forward to seeing you in class when we're able to get back there and teach with everyone. And we invite anybody and everybody who's attended and participated with us tonight to come find us at the Senior Center or go find somebody at your local gym or the gym of your choice. Get some help, look for a pro to help you, listen to your body, have that conversation, and have fun. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Stay hydrated.